Hi, I'm the Space Quest historian, and welcome to my house.
Welcome to my house.
Okay, Stoff did it better. Anyway, I am now in my palatial living room with the high ceiling and the reverberation and all that shit, and to talk to you more about my record collection, because my previous two videos on Gary Numan did quite well actually, so I figured, hey, I've got a bunch more shit to talk about in my little cabinet of wonders. It's over here, don't worry, it's there. And I thought we might round out my little love affair with that ultimate of ultimatist instruments, the synthesizer. Did I say that right? Synthesizer. There's a lot of syllables in that word, but I really do love the synthesizer. I love the synthesizer music. I think it might have something to do with the fact that I was an 80s kid and we had a Commodore 64, and the bleeps and bloops that came out of that thing were not shrill or awful to me. They were magical. They sounded beautiful. So music that sounds like that, of course, has the nostalgic allure, and I just happen to think it sounds quite well as well. Why am I justifying this? I just want to listen to music, goddammit. Anyway, so when I was a kid, my musical preference lay here in these synthesizer compilation albums, and for some reason I got them on vinyl as well. Some of these I've had to go to thrift stores to get. These are, well, I think these are German actually. They were quite omnipresent in the 80s in Europe, at least in Scandinavia. Synthesizer Greatest, which I don't know, I guess that's a matter of taste really, but they do have some of the greats on them. They have Jean-Michel Jarre and Vangelis and a bunch of other people I should know probably, but those were the big ones. And I used to have a bunch of other synthesizer compilations as well. And I mean, these are all re-recorded pieces of music. Like they would take, let's say, Oxygen by Jean-Michel Jarre and re-record them. Like one dude would just sit down and re-record it, and then they would compile all of these iconic synthesizer anthems or songs or tunes or whatever you want to call them, tracks, and just put them on these compilation albums. And this is pretty much what I listened to all the way through grade school, honestly. And there's one guy, I found this at a thrift store. He just has the most wonderful name. It's Jan Hammer. Like, it sounds like a cop from the future. Like, it's Jan Hammer. He even has a song that's called Too Much to Lose. Yeah, because he's the hammer. Anyway, he does synthesizer music as well. This one is from 1989. So I just actually recognized his name from one of the compilation bits I just put down. One of those albums there, and just, fuck it, I'll pick it up. And it sounds exactly like you'd expect. It sounds like some bad 80s cop movie soundtrack, which, I kind of like. But my love for compilation albums in the 80s also gave room to listening to actual music, or, well, that seems so harsh really, but like pop music, because I was kind of the weird kid who was listening to instrumental synthesizer music, and some of it was quite operatic. A lot of it was stuff like Mr. Jarre here, whom I actually have a bunch of records by. I got the most famous one being Oxygen, of course, and that's even if you don't know it, you know it when you're listening to it. But you know exactly what I'm talking about. Look at him, resplendent in his white leisure suit. I think he might actually be putting on a leisure suit, Larry. Wow. Mr. Jarre, you compel me. And next up we have Equinox. Not my favorite, but the cover sure wins in terms of being very weird, and Mr. Jarre got a little more ominous on the back here. Then we have my personal favorite, Rendezvous, and it is my personal favorite for a number of reasons. Well, two, in fact. There is the third Rendezvous, I believe it is, or it might be the fourth one. Can't remember. One of these has what he calls the laser harp. which is him just putting his hand through a laser and then sound triggers, but it was a sight to behold back in 1986. My second favorite piece of trivia about this is that the last track on the album, called Ron's Piece, was actually supposed to be played in space and recorded in space by the astronaut Ron McNair. Yes, McNair. He was supposed to play this in space on his saxophone. Yes, I remember the story well. Oh, how does it go? Anyway, that's not the fun thing, and the conclusion to this story is not fun either, because he was aboard the Challenger shuttle on 28th of January 1986 and blew up.
1 minute 15 seconds, velocity 2,900 feet per second, altitude 9 nautical miles, downrange distance 7 nautical miles.
Which is not funny. But that also means that the saxophone part on the last track is actually not performed in space. But the idea of having a piece of a song recorded in space was pretty fucking awesome. And then there's this one, Magnetic Fields. A lot of people know this one. It's not really one of my favorites either. But anyway, thrift stores are awesome. The only one I'm missing is one called Zuluk, and it's very weird. That's when he discovered samplers. And shit got to his head, and it's a very weird album. I used to have it, but it was warped beyond recognition, so you couldn't play it. Screw it. He also had one album that was only pressed in a single vinyl copy. All the master tapes were destroyed, and only one radio station in Luxembourg got a hold of the original copy and played it in its entirety so people could record it off the radio onto their cassette tapes. That album is called Music for Supermarkets. And that's a really weird idea. So I think Mr. Jarre here might have been a little bit loopy. But he wrote some damn good tracks. But anyway, that's in the sort of instrumental, almost operatic, almost Wendy Carlos kind of thing. You remember Clockwork Orange? Yeah, that whole sort of blah, blah, blah kind of thing. Which is a very weird thing to listen to when you're a 7 or 8 year old kid. So I got into pop music as well, but it had synthesizer elements, and here they are, the Pet Shop Boys. I was big into these guys. Well, not big enough to actually buy their records. This is my original, actually from... Yeah, let's not put the year on or anything. 1987, yes. But anyway, they had like 2 records in the 80s that were super popular. One is called Please, the other one is called Actually. I thought I had Please on vinyl. Turns out I don't. But anyway, they also had this colorful little number called Introspective, and it's from, who cares, 1988. And then there's a remix record called Disco, which I'm not big on remix records, to be honest. I mean, I like making remixes and I like putting together remixes of my own tunes, but it's kind of wankery, isn't it? And remix records are just weird sometimes. But this one is actually really, really good for a remix record. Some of the versions on this, and this one contains music from both Please and Actually. Some of these versions are actually better than the ones they put on the real albums. Fun times indeed. Anyway, kids gotta grow up at some point, right? So sometime when I went to, I think it was around the time I went to high school actually, I discovered punk rock. And I discovered heavy metal, and I discovered industrial metal, and things sort of went off the rails for a bit there. Don't worry, I'll get to all of that. And by the time I was 17 or 18, I was introduced to Nine Inch Nails, and boy, oh, don't worry, we'll get to that in another video. However, the synthesizer thing never really went away. So sometime, you know, way into my 20s, I think, well, I got really interested in a band called Ladytron. And this was introduced to me by 2 of my friends who had discovered an online golfing game, which also doubled as the sort of anime dress-up game. And I can't remember what the fucking name of it was, but it was really, you went and played golf with your friends online, and this is back in, well, it must have been the early 2000s then, because I was in my early 20s, so I'm retconning the whole intro spiel for that. It must have been my early 20s because other things as well. Early online game where you played golf as an anime girl or boy, and then you went and spent money on, well, new clubs if you were boring, but fancy new hats and shirts and loud golfing shorts for some reason. So that was fun. But when they were playing that game, the game had no real soundtrack to speak of. It was just sound effects and people hitting the golf ball. They would play this album by Ladytron, which they just found by Googling synthesizer music. And happened to come across this awesome album called Light and Magic. And by the way, Ladytron are an odd group because they're a British group. Their lead singer is Scottish. Their other synthesizer player, sometimes vocalist, is Bulgarian. And then we have these two homely looking fucks from England. And their vinyl editions of their albums seem to only exist for a blip. Like the tiniest blip on the radar of history. And then they're just taking off the market forever. So I've got this one, Light and Magic, and they followed that up with an album that I really wish I had. It's called Witching Hour, and it's kind of my white whale.
Destroy everything you touch today. Destroy me this way.
I mean, every record collector has that white whale, the one that got away. Witching Hour by Ladytron is one of them. I'm kicking myself for not buying it when it came, because Ladytron was on my radar when that album came out, and the vinyl was too, and I was into it, and I had to listen to it, and I was like, yeah, well, it's not as good as the previous ones. I'm just gonna skip this one. And lo and behold, the more you listen to it, the better it gets. And by the time the record is taken off the market forever, I'm like, damn, I should have gotten that one. I have a couple of records like that I really want to get. Anyway, they followed that up with a very good album called Velocifero, or Velocifero, depends on how you want to pronounce that. This one they released after they went on tour with 9 Inch Nails. Don't ask how that happened. And they released it on this very pretty red vinyl. Oh yes. And it is much more aggressive and hard-hitting than the more synth-based Light and Magic. I don't know, maybe Trent got into their heads. Next one that came out, Gravity the Seducer, is not as good as Witching Hour. This one's actually slightly worse, but it's still good. It's more shoegazy. It's more... sort of like, well, just fell asleep on the keyboards kind of stuff. Mr. Kitty, would you get away from my microphone cord, if you please? Yes, fuck off down and play with your own garbage. Roll around in your kitty litter filth. Sometimes you just have to be direct with these creatures. Anyway, the synthesizer. What a grandiose instrument, and Ladytron sure provides some of the best electronic synthesizer-based music that I've ever heard. I love that to bits. And they just had a pledge campaign for their new record, which is coming out very shortly. I pledged the hell out of that. I am going to get the vinyl version of this one this time, and oh boy, and it should be right around the corner actually. So I'm gonna look forward to that. Meantime, when I was at university, so this must have been around 2005 or 6, my wife was playing the radio when we were at home in our dorm apartment. I don't know why she did that, because most of the music on the radio sucks. But at one point, one song came on, and I was like, what the fuck is that? That sounds awesome. And I then spent the entirety of the rest of the day sitting in front of my computer waiting for that song to come up again, because the radio was playing over the computer, so you could see the playlist, but you couldn't see a song that had been played. You could only see what was queued up Danish radio, I don't fucking know. But anyway, eventually they played the song again and I was like, damn, that is still awesome. I was not wrong or drunk or high or anything. I need to own this. And it was this one. Which is a fantastic song, very fantastically morose. I have no idea what it's about, and I'm quite sure the lads who made this don't either. It is a Danish band, and I'm really surprised that they made an album that's as good as this. This one's called Godspeed Into the Mainstream. They made a fantastic debut album, then they made a less than stellar sophomore album, and then they just sort of went to shit. They've never made an album as good as their first one since then, but this one is amazing. I think the original vinyl version of this came on a double vinyl, like where the D side was blank, so it was a three-sided vinyl. This one is just on a single record, but what a record! I'm a sucker for this shit. Look at that. Hello. Yes, transparent vinyl, oh my god, yes. So, really good record. I do recommend checking out this band, Spleen United, but stay away from any of their subsequent albums. And also, we were finding lots of interesting bands, and sometime during the mid-2000s, the synthesizer no longer was this strange pariah that was only used in strange Eurodancey techno type of stuff. It suddenly became not cool, but there was this underground scene of people who were suddenly discovering that, hey, the old analog synthesizers, or at least that warmth of the old analog synthesizer is actually not too bad. Maybe we should do something about that. And one group that decided to do a hell of a lot with it was this one called Zombi, who take their name from, I think it's the Italian name of a... I don't care. Anyway, they sound an awful lot like their inspiration Goblin. It's basically one dude on the synthesizer and one dude on a drum kit, and they just play this really prog-ish, synthesizer-heavy rock music. Basically rock music with the synthesizer. Look at those homely fuckers. Look at them. And this one, oh, this one, Spirit Animal, is, it comes on a double record, and it is heavy as all fuck. For a synthesizer band, which only uses like a bass guitar, maybe a little sprinkling of guitar, but mostly it's just the synthesizer and a drum kit. Comes on a very nice red vinyl. Gotta love that. And this one, Surface to Air, which is actually my favorite because it has some really lovely tunes. And they printed this on a We've Lost Interest gray color, which is who cares? It sounds fantastic. Actually, no, I have a gold record, which I will show you, or it's supposed to be a gold color. It's not gold. More of a poop color, but anyway, that's a story for another video. Lastly, in the past, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, I've become much more aware, let's say 5 or 6 years actually, I've become more aware of this thing called synthwave. And I know everyone and their donkey have known about synthwave for much longer than I have. But hey, a person's got to start somewhere. Actually, it started with me discovering synthwave by just simply searching Bandcamp for interesting music. And I wanted to find synthesizer music. And with Bandcamp, you can just search for, you know, your tag. You want to, if you tag your music as synthesizer or synthwave or as vaporwave or as industrial or whatever, you can just simply type bandcamp.com/tag/ whatever it is you want to search for, and up comes every album that's been tagged with that. So I just searched for synthesizer and discovered VHS Glitch, and I have this on cassette tape. This album's called Evil Technology, and it is synthwave. It's very good synthwave, in fact. I think he had these produced in a very limited run, but I just sprung for it. And he has another one called Night on the Dark Hill, also on a cassette tape. This one just sort of falls out, but it's on this very scary looking green cassette tape. Searching for more of this, becoming now aware of the fact that there was a retro sounding synthesizer style of music out there, and it was called synthwave. I started just searching for synthwave stuff, and up comes this dude named, sorry. It's not named Parallel Lives. His album is called Parallel Lives. The dude's name is Meteor. And he actually had his album printed on vinyl, not just vinyl, on this nice splatter vinyl. Look at that fucking shit. It's almost a shame that the label has that really cheap looking 80s kind of brown teal kind of color, because the splat looks so fucking good. And this special version came with a glow-in-the-dark t-shirt. Jesus Christ. This guy kind of suffers from my first album was so good, how will I ever top that syndrome? So this is his debut album, and it is fantastic, and everything he's done after that has been kind of not as good. So, you know, that's kind of a weird thing with some artists. It's like they make the best thing they can ever make right off the bat, and then they spent the rest of their career trying to figure out what they did right. This guy's one, Spleen United was another, and let's just call it George Lucas. Soup's on! So I hope you enjoyed that, at least a little, having a look through my record collection. I love showing this shit off. I wish I could play some of it for you, but copyright. I'll try and sneak in some 10-second samples here and there. I hope I did that sort of accurately. As I said, I got very much distracted in my late teens and early 20s by this thing called punk rock and heavy metal and industrial metal and all of that sort of special bullshit. So we're gonna shift some gears the next time I do one of these vinyl round trips, and we're gonna have a very nice look at some very, very loud music. So I hope you'll enjoy that. I hope you'll join me for that. I also hope you enjoyed this one. Please like, subscribe, do whatever you kids do. Do leave me a comment, because I really do love the comments. Tell me more. Which is your favorite synthwave artist? Which is your favorite synth band from the 80s or 90s? Anyone that I missed? What's your white whale? If you have a vinyl collection, what is the one that got away? I'd love to know all of this and more, so please leave a comment or join my Discord. There's a music talk channel in my Discord, and oh, how we talk the music. And I'll see you around the Chrono stream.